Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We'll start the meeting with a presentation from Toshiano from the Perfect Move Project. Continuation of trying to encourage our residents to change the yards from grass and privet to more naturalistic type plantings. And I think you're going to tell us some of the benefits of doing that.
Sure, absolutely. Yeah. So
Nice to have you today. Thank
you
you.
for inviting me, Mayor Tony. And so my name is Toshi Yano. I'm the director of the Perfect Growth Project. It's a nonprofit organization founded by Edwina Vormgall to promote toxic-free, nature-based land management practices in our design landscapes. This is me at 6 years old in Washington, D.C., where I spent most of my youth. This was our first backyard in D.C., and that was my cat previously. That's okay. Who lived with his family under our steps until he decided to move into our house. And I think for kids, you know, being outside, it's a lot about these blurred boundaries, cats in the yard, roly-polies under stones, woolly bears, leaves, birds rustling in the trees. And back in DC, we had fireflies then. You know, there's life everywhere, teeming, magical. And part of what I want to ask today is, can we learn to manage our landscapes with that kind of with that kind of magic in mind? I can go to the next slide. This is my daughter and I in 2012. She's a bit younger than I was in that earlier picture, exploring the creek next to our home. And, you know, we both love our times together in the outdoors, exploring that kind of magical nature I just described. You can go to the next one. This picture is from Weathersfield Estate and Garden in New York's Hudson Valley, where I was the director of horticulture before moving to Perfect Earth. And I think the picture is a good representation of sort of where we are, sort of at a turning point in our approach to designing and maintaining gardens. Here that framing is happening pretty literally. On the left side of the picture, you see limestone stairs and balustrades and obelisks framing a set of axes defined by formal hedging and topiary, real Italian and Renaissance moment. But on the right, there's a less formal, more exuberant planting of native sweet bay magnolia, mountain rose bay, hay scented and cinnamon ferns, and blue wood aster. Just past that little vignette, there's an obscuring mist, or maybe more threateningly, wildfire smoke, which speaks to the very uncertain future we're all sort of moving toward, and which ultimately frames our work as landscape gardeners, landscape designers, and landscape practitioners, and makes it more than ever. So you can go to the next one. This is my daughter 2 springs ago volunteering to muck out the goldfish pool at that garden. So if our design concerns in the previous century were about formality and informality or hardscape and topiary, I think our concerns in this century are different. We're responding to circumstances that are undermining our ability to garden at all: crises in biodiversity, human health and well-being, and climate change. Much of it caused by land use change, which is to say by the practices that we use in our lands writ large. So our concerns now include our children. Next slide. They include black-capped chickadees, bobolinks, grosbeaks, orioles, warblers. You know the next one. They include our native bees and other pollinators, and the survival of our food web. Next slide. I asked how viable a management practice this is, given the triple concerns of human health, biodiversity, and climate change. And then next slide. But even this, look at how much protection this worker has to wear to do this very basic maintenance task. He's got earphones on, gloves, eye protection. You know, the constant vibrations of that machine run through his hands and into his arms. This is work that I did, and I have shoulder pain from that. That's pretty chronic. You know, he's removing these leaves, which could do a great job feeding that lawn if he used a mulch mower to mow them into the lawn and feed them. So how viable practices are these? How viable practices are these? So you can go to the next slide. So our concerns at Perfect Earth, our goal at Perfect Earth is to improve land care practices. And so this is an ultra basic framework for how we're thinking of those practices, which currently number around 100, have been vetted by conservationists, ecologists, land managers, horticulturists, groundskeepers, the whole green industry. So basically maximize biodiversity, minimize harm. And I think that's a great way to approach life generally, but for the green industry in particular, a really good approach. So we do have great partners in our work. Out here, we've just partnered with the Peconic Land Trust to initiate a program that Tim will be managing. This is Tim Wheeler from Perfect Earth Program. He's the program manager for the Living Lands program, and he will be starting soon, meeting with individual homeowners to work with them to change their practices from more conventional based practices to nature-based ones. And he's not going to be doing this without the help of landscape industry, nursery industry. We need everybody at our side if we're going to make a change here. So I just wanted to introduce Tim because hopefully you'll all be seeing him around. He's going to be bringing everybody with him as we approach these landscapes, making sure that the landscapers aren't losing money out of their pockets, that we're training them if they need training to support these practices, and that homeowners are involved at every step of the way. We're going to be working with Peconic Land Trust in specific to help clean up Georgia Ken and Sad Ponds. They've had Cornell Cooperative Extension out there, SUNY Clearwater Technologies Lab. And so we're doing surface water applications to make sure that we're not poisoning the ponds with chemicals and fertilizers and creating toxic blue-green algae blooms. So that's sort of what we're doing in a nutshell. Am I still understanding? I've heard that you
But you don't have to force feed too much. You know,
Yeah,
this is it.
just a little bit. So I thank you all.
That's perfect. It's nice to hear about you too. Because that really makes a great link to get from the this to the actual ground.
Yes, so I'm very excited about that. You'll find him to be a great, nice person, a great person to work with, and really encouraging.
Well, thank you very much for coming in. Did anybody have questions?
I have one
Yeah.
small, years ago, you, I guess, did a really wonderful little book about, best practices for people. And one of the suggestions was to have that book available, if you still do it, in Spanish, because many of our
100%. So we have a new book that we just produced that's a sort of update, more of a primer. And we are getting it translated. I think the translation just came in yesterday. So we're going to be printing that. We're going to be printing about 1,000 copies of that
that's wonderful.
in Spanish, and then another 2,000 in English as well. So they'll be available really soon.
That'd be
Especially, is there anything you could give us here at Village Hall to pamphlets or something that we can hand out?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll make sure that Tim can. I live in the Hudson Valley.
Okay.
So Tim will be your point person there for sure.
Okay.
Absolutely. Thank
That
you.
way we can, get you connected with the homeowners.
That sounds great. I appreciate that. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Any more questions?
I just wanted to compliment you guys. I totally appreciate, and Sag Village a couple years back actually did put in some restrictions on the blowers. I'm probably the only person on my block that isn't blowing their entire lawn every cutting. And you're right, that that is amazing to me, how much time is spent on using the blower. Least of all, what happens, I never use one, but I would agree with you, it has to hurt your body.
Yeah, I think he should probably be wearing a mask too for all the particles. I know, people need to mow it, get their lawn clear. They want to do it quickly. Totally understand. We're not saying, get rid of them and throw them out or anything like that. But let's try to figure out how to bring everyone into the fold and make sure that people can do their work and do it. Yes.
That's great.
Well,
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you.
We have a site plan application of Samudra Farms LLC, 7 Fairfield Pond Lane. Where do we go first?
Kevin.
Kevin? Okay, Kevin, you're on.
All right, can you guys hear me?
Yes.
All right, good afternoon. It's great to virtually see everybody. It's been a little while. So Kevin Peterman with LKMA, serving as the village planner and the village engineer on the site plan application for 7 Fairfield Pond Lane. This is not the first time you guys have seen this application. The applicant actually submitted the original plans back in November of 2023. And our office issued our first round of comments on December 13th of 2023. And the applicant has submitted revised design plans. Those are dated February 22nd of 2024. And those plans address all of our previous comments. As you guys may recall, the site is pretty challenging. They've got frontage along the Atlantic Ocean to the south. Then they've got Fairfield Pond to the north. And just to kind of jog everyone's memory, the applicant is looking to raise the residence, raise the finished floor elevation of the residence for FEMA compliance. They're looking to construct various additions and interior renovations, construct some new planters and stairs. They want to install some geothermal wells under the tennis court. They want to replace the tennis court in kind once the geothermal wells are installed. They will be improving the existing stormwater management system, and they're also going to be adding some fill along the west and the northwest portions of the residence to aid in the transition from existing grade to the new finished floor once it's raised to comply with FEMA. Just to run through some of the big ticket items on our previous set of comments, maybe I can share my screen with you guys so we could take a look at the plan.
Kevin, I have to permission.
Okay.
Are you able to come in?
Let's see, host disabled.
Yeah. Okay. All right, chat away while I find it.
Okay, so let's just go through. So some of the big ticket items, some of the corrections that we wanted to make sure were addressed. There was a lot coverage calculation that had a typo on it in the last round.
Kevin, see if you can do it now.
All right, I think we're in.
Okay.
I'm sorry, Joseph, would you mind just muting?
I got it.
Okay, thanks. Thank you, Rudy. Okay, so, you know, as you can see, it is a little bit of a challenging site to develop because they do have frontage on the Atlantic Ocean back here, over in this area, and then they have Fairfield Pond, freshwater wetlands on this side. So it's tricky, and they want to raise the residents to comply with FEMA, and they're proposing quite a few other improvements as well. So to review some of the comments that have been addressed to date, there was a typo in the lot coverage calculation that's been addressed. We requested, you know, there was a lot of like clarity items that we requested the applicant to add, and they absolutely did that. They added more information on the type of drainage structures they're installing. They provided details on the structures, the pipes, the invert elevations. They provided a little bit more clarity on some of the design intents with the grading. They've proved that they can capture the grading on site to not disturb the neighbors. When it comes to the soil erosion and sediment control aspect of this project, a SWIP, stormwater pollution prevention plan, was prepared, and we have reviewed that and we recommended approval. That looked good. They checked all the boxes as far as the SWIP was concerned. As part of the SWIP, soil erosion and sediment control plan was prepared. And in that plan is kind of where we see some things happening with the silt fencing. So when the project actually begins construction, how are we going to protect, one, the neighboring properties, and two, you know, the surface waters that abut the property. And so on that soil erosion and sediment control plan, we see the silt fences, we see the location of the material stockpile, we see the location of the construction entrance, the concrete washout. And some of our comments on the last round of this project had to do with, you know, adding an additional layer of silt fencing to protect Fairfield Pond. So having a silt fence on both sides of the road. And the applicant is now proposing that, which we are fully on board with. Previous comments also included trying to figure out a better spot for the construction access so that construction equipment can, you know, doesn't have a chance to exit the site before going over the tracking pad and cleaning out all of the, you know, dirt from their tires before they go onto that private right of way. And so the applicant now has revised the location. Let's actually go to that plan so we can see it together. Okay. So now we're seeing in this area up here, the new location of the construction access, which is, I think, probably the most suitable location to make sure that all of the construction equipment, is tracking over this thing. And it is something that's traversable by a normal car. It's something that anyone can drive over. And so, as part of this construction, we just want to make sure too that the neighbor to the south, that his access is not, impinged, that it's not affected during construction. And so those are some of the things that we recommended, in our most recent email when we said, hey, we looked at the plans, the applicant resubmitted, he addressed all of our previous comments. Assuming that the applicant has addressed all of the outstanding concerns of the board, we would recommend approval with 2 conditions. And those conditions would be, number 1, that access to the private right-of-way must be kept clear at all times so as to not disrupt access to the adjacent residences. And number 2, that the applicant be responsible to repair any damages to the private right-of-way incurred as a result of the subject application. But just real quick, I also wanted to say, so we do have a coastal erosion hazard boundary that bisects this property, and the applicant is proposing to disturb lands seaward of that coastal erosion hazard area boundary. And they're also proposing to add fill. And so we just want to remind the board and advise the applicant that all land disturbance activities seaward of that coastal erosion hazard area boundary does require a coastal erosion hazard permit from the village. Additionally, the applicant should be advised that an importation permit may be required from the village building inspector for the net import of 310 cubic yards, of which approximately 165 cubic yards of fill will be placed inside the coastal erosion hazard boundary. And that's pretty much it. I think the applicant did a nice job in addressing all of our comments to date.
Kevin, just for the purposes of the record and confirmation for the resolution, on the version that you're referencing that's on the screen,
Yes,
the last revised date is February 22nd, 2024?
that is correct.
Okay, great. That's the version the board has, but just shows how efficient the village of Sacaponic is, that February 22nd, that's a very recent revision, and I confirm with the applicant's attorney that this is the version that the board feels like approving today. This is the version that'll control.
Question,
Sure, go ahead.
the dark black lines, it's proposed limit of clearing, grading, and ground disturbance. It seems like a lot of land there to clear and grade. And it's right behind the top of the dune. What are they clearing?
They're
And-
just, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, I'm sorry, the applicant is here. Bailey, if you want to address it. Better.
Bailey Larkin with Bennett Reed, offices at 212 Van Milling in Southampton. And Kelly Callbacker with the Raider Group is here also this afternoon. You're talking about the limits of disturbance on the south side of the house?
Yes. Inside of this line.
I think we're proposing to do some restoration work on the dune, which, as your engineer has said, will require a coastal erosion permit from the building inspector in that area. We had submitted with this application a copy of the landscape plan that was proposed to kind of restore that area.
And how are you restoring it?
I think right now there's actually some lawn in that area that's being removed and replaced with native vegetation. We had submitted a plan prepared by Margaret.
Are you digging out basically?
No, it's the restoration will require the addition of fill, which I think Kevin can mention that portion of the fill that's proposed in this property is actually for that area south of the coastal erosion hazard line.
But it says clearing and grading and ground disturbance.
It'll require ground disturbance because we're removing existing lawn. portion. And it is shown on the martyrs plan. We kind of give you an idea of where the existing lawn is south of the pool area, and it'll kind of retreat in line with the edge of the pool, and then there'll be native vegetation to the south where the pool is right now.
So what you're saying is that you're taking out a lawn and
Correct.
putting in native vegetation.
Correct, on the
So,
south side of the pool.
But you need to recognize that you can't take out the lawn without a permit.
Correct,
Yeah,
which obviously we would obtain a coastal erosion permit
Right.
from the building department for that work.
so it's more a matter of they're trying to go backwards instead of forwards. Taking out what somebody did.
Behind that dune is very sensitive.
Are you redoing the dune as well?
I believe there is some restoration work that is required in that area as well. Because it is lawn at this point.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
Oh, right here, yeah.
There we
Mm.
go. I wonder if is it irrigated?
Close to the ocean. Well,
Just with respect to the conditions that Kevin had mentioned,
Look how close the
obviously the
pond is.
property owner would agree to keep
shouldn't even
the
be there.
access to the private right of way open for neighboring property owners. And our plans themselves, actually, I believe the Rayner plan calls out that any damage to the private right of way would be restored by the property owner.
Right.
With inspections completed.
Anything else? Any other questions?
Any other comments from the public on the project? Okay. Mr. Mayor, you have a resolution in the packet, resolution proposed for adoption based on the engineer's review and those two conditions with Ms. Larkin acknowledged during her presentation on access to the private right of way must be maintained at all times. Any damage to the right of way occurred will have to be repaired as well by the applicant. Updated the maps and surveys, and it is subject to a coastal erosion area permit from the village.
What's the health of the pond?
It's beyond the project scope, but any damage.
It's right there, though.
Yeah. Yes, it's not owned by this applicant, so it's beyond the project scope, but any damage beyond the right of way, which is the south side of the pond here, would have to be repaired by the property owner if it's impacted by the project.
I mean the pond itself, with all the trucks and all the fill and all of this and all that, and
One of the reasons why they asked to have the the double silt fencing installed. Because
Is for
that's
that reason?
normally, that's correct, right, Kevin?
Yes, that is absolutely correct. We, acknowledge that this is a sensitive area. The applicant is trying to do the best they can to protect that water to the best of their ability. And so while they can install a silt fence on, around their area of disturbance, like we just want to make sure that, well, maybe, as construction equipment is driving around, we just want to prevent any sort of, opportunity for sediment to make its way into that, Fairfield pond over there. So that second silt fence so we'll have a silt fence on the south side of the road and on the north side of the road. And so that should really be an extra level of cushion to protect that Fairfield pond.
And also, they've got the obligation to provide the SWIP plan, stormwater prevention plan. They've got to provide that. We monitor it. They also have to monitor it, and they have to repair it at all times too. So it's a dynamic continuing obligation. It's not just set it and forget it.
That is absolutely correct. There will be inspections to make sure that things are occurring as they should.
So you're saying that water generated on the property has to stay on the property and should not be going into the pond? The only
That's
worry is the water that accumulates on the common driveway might go into the pond.
Correct.
So that's why you had the second silt fence on the other side of the road.
Exactly.
Right.
Okay,
Yeah. Any sediment's gonna get caught by that. Yep.
so they're trying, yeah.
Can I ask a question?
Sure, go ahead.
The depth.
Introduce yourself.
I'm
please, for the
sorry,
record.
Ricky
Thank you.
Foster. The depth of the geothermal wells will be. Is there somebody who can answer that question?
Geothermal wells?
I don't know if Kelly Kalbecker is present. He's
Yes.
a site engineer. I'm not sure if he's able to answer that question.
Yeah, I know they are proposed within the tennis court. I'm not aware of this. That was handled by the MEP engineer on this. But I can go back to our office and get information on the depth of these, of the geothermal.
Does that depth have some problem associated with it, if it's a certain over depth or under depth?
Not to my knowledge, I don't typically design geothermal for sites. I just wherever they've been able to meet setbacks of property lines, the underground propane tanks, the drainage is part of my scope of designing the geothermal. I'm not into the actual functionality of them, but it's like,
But there would be some kind of standard that they would have
yeah,
to
yeah,
fall
they do,
within?
yeah, there's health department standards with them as well as just geothermal normal standards that
This
I.
is also a closed loop geothermal
Yes.
system.
I was just gonna ask.
Closed
So yeah,
Oh.
system.
So it's all, yeah, you're gonna get advantage, right, so it's all inflected within the house and within itself.
Did you have a specific reason for asking that question? Did you know something that maybe we should know? Or that was just,
Well, they have to drill them. I mean, in order to install them, they have to drill them. So that's the reason for me asking about the depth. Certainly you have surface water right there.
Hmm.
Whether or not there will be any difficulty even installing them. That's just my.
yeah, okay.
That's a good question.
yeah, that can almost become a means and methods question for the contractor who's going to install them. But it is not uncommon for us to see geothermal wells installed in applications like this one. It's kind of what we see as the next generation, the next wave of efficiency in design. And just adding on top of it, I believe it is a closed geothermal system. And the advantage of the closed loop geothermal system as compared to the open loop. So the open loop, which I'm not even sure is permitted by code anymore with Suffolk County Water and the Health Department, but the open loop, that is exactly as it sounds. It has an open loop and pulls from from the earth. The closed loop system is a closed system, so we don't have to worry about the salinity of water, or the concentration of salt in that water and how it may corrode or interfere with the function of that system. The closed loop system is just everything's contained in itself and it can be flushed when needed.
And also the water consumption is static.
Yes,
Oh, so in other words, it's filled once, it's not, they used to suck water up and then just throw it away after they got the energy out of it? And this one, did you know that? I didn't, oh, okay, well.
No,
That's the-
I think the question really relates to the installation. They're
Yeah,
gonna have, they have
how
to
does it
drill,
affect?
they have to drill in order to install. And that, I'm only asking about the depth, that's really my query.
What were the rings underneath the tennis court for? Wasn't that part of that system?
it wasn't, they're being relocated outside, it's still picking up drainage from the tennis court
Where they being relocated to?
to the east. Right up there, well,
They look a lot smaller.
but those, yeah, the large circles are just a setback. The actual geothermal probe is just that little dot in the middle of those large circles.
These, they're being moved to here.
The smaller circles are the 8-foot diameter, 8x2 draining dry wells for the tennis court that aren't there, are already in place, they're just being relocated. The tennis court is being pitched away from the house towards a gravel trench with a perforated pipe that would be then being collected by the dry wells. Yeah, what Kevin has highlighted, that little dot is the actual geothermal probe.
So it went from 12 to 8. Well, geothermal,
There were no geothermal on the site before.
no, I mean, you said you were moving something.
The original drainage for the tennis court was located underneath the tennis court. That drainage system is now being located to the east of them, those 8-foot diameter circles.
Yeah, from 12 to 8. But that has nothing to do with the geothermal.
So
No.
maybe I can clarify, I could try to help clarify. So these round circles that you see with the dotted lines inside the tennis court, this is the offset, the required offset between each of the wells. Each of the wells is, the wells are actually very tiny. They're right in the middle of these, dotted circles. And so what we're seeing inside the tennis court, we're seeing at the center of these offset circles, we're seeing the actual well location, then we're seeing the offset circles. These are kind of just fictitious. There's nothing actually there. It's just showing that we can, where the applicant can install the wells in accordance with the manufacturer recommended offset distances.
12 wells
Yes.
going to 8 wells.
No.
There are no wells under existing conditions, to the best of my knowledge. The number of dry wells that existed in the existing tennis court, those existing dry wells will remain the same number, same size, and they'll just be relocated just a bit further east.
Thank you.
Sure.
Guess I don't.
Any other comments?
Do you want to move the resolution, Bill?
I'm not sure we've satisfied
I don't know if
questions.
we have it. This is not this circle,
No, I know, I understand that.
and that's where they're gonna be drilled right there. Drill right in that spot.
So Lee, you kind of started some of this. Is there some problem you're
So
trying to do this to? I just trying to figure out where we're going with this. We've got,
I think it's a matter of information for village to have. I wouldn't consider it to be an impediment in light of the fact that an awful lot has been reviewed and found approvable. But I think that we're gonna see more and more of what would be considered the new and best. It's an issue of what's below us. We don't know and an awful lot as to what we're perforating.
right,
And that's a concern of mine.
yeah, okay. Okay, I'll make a motion to approve this subject to the 2 conditions.
I'll second it.
And deem the resolution read into the
Well, deem the resolution, I don't feel like reading this whole thing.
The resolution
It's
as
in
presented.
print. I'll deem it read, and we have a second, all in favor?
Aye.
So it passes. Thank you. Thank you for the presentation. Let's see, Kevin, I think you're done with Kevin. He's not coming up again.
You're done.
Thank you, Kevin.
Thank you
You're
very
very
much.
welcome. You're very welcome, everyone. See you soon.
Okay.
Take care.
Next item is the Wolfer Trust subdivision performance bond. It's been, I guess, 2 years since the subdivision was finished. They put up the bond in cash. They don't really want to develop the subdivision, but they like to keep it all in place. So they're asking us to continue to leave the bond money with us. And they'd like us to extend the approval on the subdivision bond for additional 2 years.
Correct, Mayor.
Any questions about that? I mean, I guess it's a good thing that they haven't. The land is still undeveloped. Okay, I'll make a motion to approve that, the extension of the performance bond.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Minutes from last meetings. Anybody find a problem? I thought they looked pretty good.
I thought they were good.
No problems?
No, I wasn't here.
Right. Okay. No spelling errors.
Oh, don't ask me for that.
Okay, I'll make a motion to approve the previous minutes from monthly board meetings.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Southampton Town police department, local reports.
Yeah, January, they had 89 traffic stops, 9 of them were arrests, 8 on the highway and 1 on Main Street. Of 18 burglar alarms, all were either canceled or false. And otherwise, it was a January.
That makes, well, that's good that we can truly say that about where we live.
Do you think the false alarms are fairly stable, or, I mean, it doesn't sound like a huge number compared to what I remember years ago, but, you know, it's a lot of work for the fire chief and to go and investigate those.
It's the alarm companies need to fix their alarm.
Yeah. Just wind and animals.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
A lot of the alarm companies provide I know this from our business, provide monitoring service, but you have to sign a different contract to have an alarm, checked and updated 4 times a year, and I don't think a lot of people pay for that second amount, and that's probably why we get some. I could be wrong.
And then February, was pretty slow as well. There were 84 traffic stops, 7 of them arrests. 5 or 6 were either Town Line Road, Poxy, or Montauk Highway, and 1 was Sag Road. Well, I don't have, there were 2 accidents with PI, and I don't know much more about that.
Okay. Thank you.
It's pretty slow.
That's good.
I'm happy enough.
Article 3, we have proposals for the health treatments they've been giving to the beech trees, Saginaw Road and Gibson Beach entrance.
Wait, Gibson Beach entrance.
Yeah, I didn't quite understand that.
What is that?
I even drove down there on my way, and I'm a little confused. Did they write the tree committee write incorrect entrance? Road?
That could be me, hold on.
Oh.
They're on Main Street.
I know what happened. Get that last beach, Gibson Beach entrance out of there.
Okay,
I know what happened.
7 beach trees, period.
Yes.
Okay, that's great, because I can find 7 beech trees.
No, sorry, that was my mistake. Sorry.
Okay, sorry to be difficult.
That was the reading test, to make sure you read it.
Yeah, I can drove to look, because I thought to myself. I
No
didn't
rebuilding to do.
remember.
My apologies. That was me.
I went to a conference where this was one of the subjects they addressed. They had a plant pathologist there and one of the researchers from Bartlett, and an entomologist. And as you probably know, the beech leaf disease is not a disease, it's actually a nematode, but it's not the same one that you find in the soil. They're all, nematodes are very specific to certain host plants. They did hand out a list of treatments for it. None of them are really solutions. They kind of just hopefully keep the trees alive long enough so eventually maybe they find a way to save them. I gave that list, a copy of it, to the tree committee. This particular treatment is one of the treatments they suggest. It does not actually kill any nematodes. It's more of a tree health type of thing. I think there's a phosphorus compound which just generally enhances plant health. They do have injections and spray treatments, which are all fairly toxic. In particular, the sprays I don't think would be acceptable at all in this environment because with the height of those trees, if you spray at that elevation, it's going to go everywhere. I think this is probably the best way to approach it for the moment. Long term, I'm not sure if we're going to keep the beech trees alive, but maybe there'll be something will turn up. They're definitely researching it like crazy. Everybody you run into is trying to figure out some way if there's a natural predator to unleash. I mean, they've done that with some things, but so far nothing's turned up. Anyway, I mean, I recommend that we improve this, try it for another year and keep them moving along. I'll make a motion to approve that expenditure.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Golden Towers, yes. You're on. Thanks for coming.
Thank you for having me, Mayor. Good afternoon, trustee members, Attorney Egan, Rhodey, Ray Brigatti with Holman Towers. If you get to know my face, I've been here for the past 4 months in a row. My pleasure. Just want to give a brief overview of the project, and then I can maybe turn it over to Attorney Egan. We've been working very closely, obviously, with the village for a wireless communication facility. I think everybody recognizes the need now for this wireless carrier, but public safety. The last time I was here in the February meeting, there was a resolution passed allowing the mayor to enter into a lease with Holman Towers. That lease is fully executed. The project itself calls for a 100-foot stealth facility, which is a flagless flagpole with the antennas concealed inside the pole itself. The pole will be designed for 4 carriers plus public safety. The equipment compound would be a fenced compound, large enough for 4 carriers and public safety as well. In this particular case, Verizon is the applicant or the anchor of the project. They would be the first one to install. We would expect the other carriers such as T-Mobile, AT&T, and Dish to come soon thereafter. I think we're here before you today to discuss 2 resolutions, one being the neg deck for seeker and the other being the Monroe balancing test. I'm happy to answer any questions. This is voted to be approved today. We are eager and ready to move forward. Speaking closer to Rhodey, the next process that we would do is we would come out and do what's called a geotechnical investigation, which involves bringing a small drill rig out to the property here. We would do soil borings, and that would dictate kind of a foundation for the pole, a pier or a mat foundation. We would still go through your assuming building permit process. We'd file a set of plans, building permit application, get a building permit folks. We would look to start construction immediately. At that point, again, I'm here to answer questions, and certainly Attorney Egan's been very well versed and involved with the process.
Thank you, Ray. Your team has been very diligent in all the paperwork that's submitted. We found that all to be in very good order. Today, board, we're going to consider again. This is the last time you'll remember. It sounds like we're doing a secret repeat, but this is actually the secret for the actual site. One resolution. It's our recommendation that it is unlisted action, and it's proposed for a negative declaration today. The second aspect is what's called the Monroe balancing test, where cell tower installations are exempt from local land use plan and zoning regulations in the village code. Is subject to a building permit for integrity of the structure itself. As part of both combined projects, they did do an archaeological study and historical review of the places that will be disturbed and found nothing, came out clean, undisturbed soil. With that, I don't know if
Attorney Robert Codioso is on the line via Zoom as well with Snyder and Snyder.
I don't know, Ray, I want to turn it over to Robert, see if he's got something to add to that. Otherwise, I'll run through the elements unless Rob wants to take it.
Thank you, Mr. Egan. Good afternoon, Honorable Mayor and members of the board. Yes, that's all correct. We did submit all of the necessary documentation as if it were a full process, and that included confirmation there's no FAA issues, confirmation the facility is in compliance with FCC regulations, full alternative site analysis, a visual analysis, and environmental assessment form, including all of the attachments that Mr. Egan referenced, and in addition to that, the full site plan. So we did submit all the materials. If there are any questions, we'd be happy to answer them.
And just for the point of the record and for the board and for the members of the public that are listening on this, there are 9 elements to the Monroe balancing test. They're discussed extensively in the resolution, but the nature and scope of the, just to hit some of the high points, the nature and scope of the instrumentality seeking immunity, that's the cell tower itself. And then our interest as a village government to do that with regard to not only enhanced safety, as we all very well know what spotty cell phone or non-existent cell phone service we have, how important it is just not only from a personal safety standpoint, but from a public safety standpoint. The function and of the land that's used, in this case, it's spare property of behind Village Hall. It's otherwise unoccupied from a shed that's gonna be removed to another spot. Land use regulations that are on it, again, we have a very limited window as a local government with regard to the siting and location of cell phone towers. Whether there are other alternative locations for this facility, the village doesn't have or own much other property within the village. And this is ideally located back there to allow 24-hour access because our village and the police are here on a regular basis. Impact on local interests, it will be virtually none. If no one is being displaced, nothing is being moved. That's going to be back in our rear yard. Alternative methods of providing the proposed improvement, there really aren't any because the most effective, efficient way to provide cell service is via a tower like this. You'll never get the power, scope, and depth of service coverage with smaller nodules. The technology is just not there yet. This is really the best way. Again, extend to the public interest to be served. As we've talked about it, it's almost self-evident with our spotty service here. Intergovernmental participation in the project development process. I know that Homeland has reached out to the local ambulance and fire services to get co-location on that and access to it, and that will be provided as one of the requirements of the resolution to allow government to have that access, including the police at the top, which is called a whip antenna, which would go on top of the pole. That it's laid out otherwise in the resolution extensively. There are again two resolutions. Unless the board has any questions, or the public has any questions, we can move towards the approval of the motion for the resolutions.
Questions?
I'm good.
Good.
Public, anybody out there? You're okay?
Who did the archaeological
It was a
examination?
I believe it was a company called Trileaf.
right. It's professional archaeologists, historical archaeologists.
From upstate, they were from upstate. Did they look at did they actually look at the land?
Yes.
Oh, yes.
They came, they actually did shovel
Oh,
test
they did,
pits.
yes, okay. Yeah.
This is, I actually sent it. I sent an email around saying, this is when I'm done with the law, that's the job that I want to have.
I love it.
Yeah, absolutely. That was part of the secret process to make sure. Yes. So Mayor, if I could, the first, Ray, do you have anything else to add? Or?
No.
Okay, great, thanks. Mayor, the first resolution before the board is the resolution for SECRA to declare this as an unlisted action, declare the village board the lead agency, and to adopt a negative declaration.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Second resolution is the approval and determination as to the Monroe balancing test as we outlined and is included in the resolution. That the interest test is fulfilled, and this is an approval of the actual application for the siting and the site plan behind Village Hall.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, board.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ray.
Thank you.
Thank you, folks. I just want to say, in my 24 years of doing this, you guys top notch. Roni's been phenomenal to deal with. She's
We're lucky to have
Yes,
you.
You're very lucky.
Absolutely.
I don't come across a special breed like this. And kudos to Attorney Egan for working with us. So we look forward to bringing product to fruition.
Thank you for the good comments, and if you call us with those comments, we wouldn't have heard it.
Thank you, Ray.
Thank you very much.
Thanks. Thank you, Ryan.
Hey, Jim, I see you scratching that shoulder. It's still not all done yet?
No, the shoulder's doing well. Everything's healing up good. It's on the right track.
Let's see, Gibson Beach. We had two different things going on there. One was the end of the beach, trying to improve drainage. I think Ronnie's I caught the photo. I was down there in the afternoon after it rained, I guess overnight, and the water was still sitting in the road. So it'd be interesting to have a photo of it. Yeah, to deal with the drainage, try to make the parking a little bit more, a little more room, the hedge cut back. We'll find out. They did a survey of buried utilities. So that would be the limit of how much we could push out
Is
towards.
that where all the red marks were that I saw this morning?
Oh,
Yeah,
I didn't see that.
Yeah, they marked
must
it
have
up,
been,
yeah, in the last week or so, maybe. But the marks are there, so they must be looking for what's under there. They were the
Yeah,
ones you normally see
I
when
think
you do
he
that.
said that before he could actually definitively say what we could push out, he had to find out where everything was buried. So now that Jim has that information, I think he's gonna present us with some ideas. Actually, he gave us numbers too.
Well, the picture you have up right now, from the bottom of the picture on the right-hand side where the puddle is going northerly, to a little bit further, we're going to be putting a French drain on that whole section. It's gonna be 2 foot wide, 3 foot deep. It's gonna be filled with gravel, a larger gravel on the bottom, lined by filter fabric on each side of the trench. And we're gonna put on top of the bigger gravel, the driveway pea gravel that you see in most of the driveways, so it would kind of blend in with most of the driveways. A lot of times, especially on this project in the past, the French drains were covered with a filter fabric and topsoil and seeded, so that 6 inch layer of topsoil actually got silted up and is kind of preventing this water from going down. So, and there was some small sections of an existing French drain in there. We're gonna put the French drain down the whole line. This whole easterly edge of the parking area.
Jim, I'm gonna pull up the specs that you sent over.
All right,
Can you park on that French drain?
yeah, it'd be gravel. Your front tires will be,
My question, same thing you thought, can you park on it?
yeah, yeah. You wanna bring up the plans, yeah,
They're not in our book, right? No. Okay. So basically, visually, it would look the same in relation to parking area.
well, if you look at the plan, right where Rhodey has the mouse there now, yes, there's an area left there that we could probably gain another 6 or 7 stalls. Right where you got your mouse there.
Oh, the bump.
Yeah, there's a high area where there's the dirt and grass is probably 18 inches to 20 inches higher than the road. And I believe they left it that high because there's a lot of utilities running right there. As somebody had mentioned before, there's a lot of paint out there. So the paint that you see, the red paint is electric, the orange is telephone, the yellow is gas, and the blue, of course, is water. So now that we know where everything is, I do have 2 lines. I have an electric line and a telephone line that are probably 4 feet off the pavement in that area where we have to, where we want to rip out that mound of soil and put sub base in and asphalt it. So we're gonna do a test hole when it's time, find out where these are. They may be, because they're not big service lines. These are only servicing a few houses, so I could, if they are not deep enough, I can get the utility to drop them. Like they excavate underneath it and just drop the conduits.
Where's the French drain going?
You could see it, it's like it's on the south, well, on the bottom side of the road here, which would be the east side. You'll see a little, yeah, right along there,
That whole length?
the whole length.
Yeah, I think we had 50 feet before.
Yeah,
It lasted 7 years. How long did that last?
It could not be much more over 7, maybe it's 10 years,
Yeah.
but we've done the French drain previously there. And you can't actually see it.
Can't you just regrade it and forget the French drain?
But you have water problems there because the property comes down on the east side and the west side.
Do they have
From their
something called
hedges that
a
are raised, right?
Drainage wick? Where you have a couple spots, you dig holes and then.
I mean, basically the French drain, it's basically it's an excavation 2 feet wide, 3 feet deep that you fill with gravel. It's not, you're not gonna really notice anything except that the gravel that is placed on top. Right now, the surrounding properties and the road ending are higher than the road, so the water has nowhere to drain off to.
All the surrounding properties, to verify what he said, have like berms that the hedges are on. So they've created these hills that create the continual puddle on, that comes to the east side. And,
What about, is there something called a drainage wick or something? You dig the hole and,
I mean, a wick, like typically a wick you would put through an area where you have a clay layer. And that's typically called a wick, where you have a leaching basin and then you dig. Or if you have a recharge basin and it's not draining, you'll put a very deep, like a 30-foot leaching basin at the bottom of the recharge basin, what's called a wick. It goes through the clay layer, or a layer that's not letting the water drain through.
it might not
But
even be there.
I don't think these properties actually bermed it. I mean, I don't know what happened on these properties years ago, but the contour lines is an elevation. You could see I left these contour lines on the map here. So the roadway is 18 at this point. So some surrounding the property to the east is 19. So it's just a natural collection point. Basically, the high point of Gibson Road is probably about where that let's say white car is that you see.
yeah,
There, it actually flows north. The general grade of Gibson Lane, it flows north up to Daniels, and it gets deposited into
The drains we put there a couple years back.
yeah, there's a big drainage easement that we installed a bunch of leaching basins in the Daniels Lane project. You can see the lay of the contours on the screen right now. You have a 13, then you have a 12, and when you go further north, it gets, so the general slope, well, most of the stormwater that falls on Gibson Lane is flowing north to Daniels Lane. So the area down at the road ending, it is not a large watershed. It just has, the area is a little silted up right now.
The width of the parking area, are you getting any more to the east? When you dig that, is there anything buried in there that you can remove some of that, that kind of berm on the edge of the parking field?
I was planning on putting, I'm gonna leave the edge of the pavement where it is. And when I put another 2 feet of the width of the trench is gonna be 2 feet. But then you'll have the other 2 feet of gravel, so you'll have an additional 2 feet.
Oh, good.
So that area was the area, the 2 feet of gravel that was underneath the overgrowth from the hedges, right?
Right.
Yeah, that was, right where Rhodey has the mouse right now, there was probably 50 feet or so of French drain put in about 7 years ago.
No, I was on the board then, and it was needed, and the overgrowth from the hedge now is moved back, and if we put the fence in also, we probably will solve a lot of problems in one.
so the old French drain doesn't work. You can't revive it.
Plugged up, yeah.
Well, the area that it's in right now, I plan on removing like the top foot of the silted up material and leaving what's in place and then going north and south of that.
Yeah, I just don't like the idea of gravel down at the beach.
Well, if you look across the street, right from, there's a driveway across the street that it's all gravel. We plan on using this. If you look at, like, I'd say 60–70% of the driveways in the Sagaponic are using this rounded pea gravel. It's about a 3/8, quarter inch to 3/8 stone. I was trying to get that same stone to match the character of the rest of the village.
I also feel our winter storms from living on Daniels and Gibson Lane. Below the sand, I don't think we're gonna see the gravel more than one season. And I think, you know what I'm saying, as if the sand comes, you know how the front section where you have the 12 feet on the map, and all the sand gets blown from the beach through.
Right,
I think over time, we're not gonna see the gravel. I could be wrong.
no, I think you're right, it is blown in
It's
quite a
blowing in,
ways, that's
yeah,
1 year too.
and that's,
Yeah, yes, you're probably correct on that point. However, sand itself, stormwaters will naturally flow through the sand. It's the silt. It's the silt that comes off the farms and topsoils, and maybe from some of the properties. It's the fine silts that actually clog up the pores between the sand that doesn't let stormwater infiltrate. So by the fact that, when we're done with this, we'll replant or reseed, not replant, but put a grass mixture in on that slope at the edge of this French drain. And that should help prevent any of the silt from flowing from the property to the east.
fence might help too, right? Do you think that?
Yeah, it'll be off.
Yeah, I guess the fence would have to be off.
The fence would have to be probably bottom of it buried, which you don't want to do that either.
No, I think it's something we ought to do. It's gonna improve parking.
I-
We need
In the
drainage.
summer when it rains, then people park further out and it's like odd things happen. If you have 3 foot of water and someone, doesn't want to step out of their car into the puddle, their car is like in an odd angle, and we need handicap parking down there desperately.
Oh, I had nothing in the estimate to actually stripe this for parking. Would you like that done?
Well, we did discuss handicap parking, right?
Yeah, kind of,
I mean, it's
I mean,
only,
the seal will cover up the striping, but I think for a couple of years, and if we clean it. Yeah, if you can add that in, I think, get us things down towards the end.
all
So you
right.
just
so
put the
are we looking
handicap,
at
not
two-
the rest of the parking.
Just the handicap.
Yeah, just,
You got that, Jim?
What was that? I'm sorry.
Just the handicap, not the additional parking.
Oh, okay, so
Handicap is the only one that's gonna park that.
we'll do a blue handicap, with the space next to it, and we have to put a sign up there with it. That's fine.
We also talked about north of the handicap in the area near the bike rack and the proposed benches in that area that
That's
we.
south of the handicap.
You're right, it's south, sorry. That we would put a cross stripe area because it is amazing to us how many times people back their car into the utilities there.
Oh.
And, knock out all the Optimum or Verizon issues on the street. So we also were talking about striping that area.
Okay, maybe,
Or maybe the rocks will stop them from
Rocks.
doing that.
or a bollard. Yeah, the rock, well, I think Bill had that was one of the reasons. I mean, I've shown some rock placement on the plan here. But as far as final location, they'll be placed on the pavement after the paving's done.
right,
Actually, as part of the road ending, I don't have a resurface in there. What I did is I gave you 2 numbers. One for the creation or the expansion of the parking, where we're removing that excess soil and putting a sub base down and paving that to existing grade, and the French drain and the big boulders. That was an estimate of that was like 28,000 or 29,000, 28 and change. And then I gave the village another estimate with that road ending work I just explained, with the milling and paving of Gibson Lane up to Daniels Lane. And the total for the milling, paving, and the road ending work was 122,595 construction cost.
That road has never been, the end where the beach is has been paved. But from Daniels Lane to Crestview, approximately, it kind of curves out in Crestview. That section has never been paved.
And I like it that way.
In the village. So that's.
Are there gonna be yellow lines and
No.
white
No, no.
lines all over it?
no, I told them specifically the same width no lines whatsoever, just clean up what's there to repave it.
I also think less rocks is more rocks, so cross two of them out, just put two in. It's getting crowded down there.
The rocks can go in anytime, we don't have to put them in
And
immediately.
one bench instead of two benches. And the bike rack, if you want to use both sides of the bike rack, has to be perpendicular to the east side of the property. Otherwise, nobody's going to be able to get their bike around behind the signs to put the bikes. And are people bringing bikes down? Do we need both sides of the bike rack?
Well, there are bikes there many days. I don't know how many.
If you don't need both sides, then this is fine. But if there's tons of bikes, you need to be able to put them in both sides. This way you can't.
Yeah, we have no idea where the bike rack came from.
Oh, isn't that fun?
Yeah, and it's actually falling apart already.
Oh dear.
Is it really?
Yeah.
It's made out of 1x2.
It has one screw on the top and one screw on the bottom.
Well, you could fix that right up, couldn't you?
And whether you have one bench or two benches, we would be donating them because I think this is an important part of our community and.
So who drew this up?
I just did
Yeah, that's
a
not-
rough
Does the
thing.
handicap piece go to the right of the car
They're all
parking?
different.
Or does it go to the left?
It's all different. I think if you have a handicap van,
Yeah, it goes to
they
the right.
open on the side.
Well,
Sometimes
there are standards. Jim, what are the standards on a handicap parking?
It's like a minimum 9-foot stall, and whatever the stall width is, the hatched area next to it, or for the van access, is another 9 feet. So whatever the parking stall is, it's the additional space next to it that would be hatched out in blue.
So does the hash go on the passenger side?
It's usually on the driver's side.
unless you back
I guess you could have it either way, as long as it's.
I'm just curious, because usually you load in a wheelchair from the passenger side because you wouldn't.
Don't
load
want to
into
be on the
street.
road.
I mean, isn't there standards for that?
It's not specific, like you said, you can back in, so it can be on either side. The standard is to give enough space on either side, give enough space on one side.
Right. No, I looked at several and measured them. It seemed like they seemed to be about 16 feet total. So 8 for the car and 8 for the ramp, or you say 9 and 7, whatever.
Well, an 8-foot stall is pretty tight. I mean, it's usually on a handicap stall, you want to try to give it a little bit more.
Okay.
9x20s.
I'm not gonna tell you, I just measured them at various places.
No, but most of the places that get developed now for parking lots, they want to fit as many cars in and limited space they can, so they're making the stalls, very small. Well, you might notice it when you go to open your door.
She's getting some water, she'll be right back.
So as far as the location of the handicap ramp, I mean, not the ramp, the handicap stall, I can work that out when we decide, if this village decides to move ahead with either project. And the location of the boulders, same thing, and how many.
So we could move ahead and the handicap and the boulders can come
Yep,
later.
sounds good.
Because we want to get in the queue, for lack of better description, for this project.
I think the handicap has to be part of the project, right there, Jim?
Well,
Yeah.
I mean, it'll be in the work order,
Yeah.
but it's in the Suffolk County requirements contract that we're using, because it is a highway work order. So we have, the thermoplastic, which actually, when you do in blue, there is no thermoplastic, it'll be paint, it'll be highway pavement paint.
So can we add it later, or we need to decide on that right now?
Well, you don't need to decide on it right now. If you tell me if you want to go ahead with the project, it's not going to affect the price, I think it's $1 a foot.
Right.
Okay, that's easy.
It's not a big expense.
So the basic drainage and expanding the parking a bit, And I think we ought to do the whole pave down to its standards where the last pavement left off. I
Yeah.
mean, the pavement is breaking up. Just get it all done at once. Is that okay? And then we can decide on the boulders and exactly placement of the handicap space later.
Yeah, I mean, I'll put the necessary linear footage in the work order. So you
Okay,
could send them a PO. But as far as the boulders, like we could write a separate work order when that's determined. Right
Okay.
now I have 5 in the estimate. They were like $750 a piece placed. That was based on an average, a bigger boulder. I think it goes by the weight of them. So I tried to be on the high side there on the estimate. Just going back to the total costs of the road, I neglected to actually put the LKMA costs in. So the road ending only was 3,900 LKMA and 28,915 for the construction, which the total for the road ending is 32,815. If you decide to do the road ending with the milling and resurfacing of Gibson up to Daniels, the LKMA cost was 7,600 and the total construction cost was 122,595 for a total of 130,195. Rhodey has that all, I gave her a summary of that.
You did, the only thing I didn't get was the, unless you sent that today, was the, your cost, LKMA's cost.
That's in the March 19th letter, Rhodey.
Okay. That was
I
yes.
summarized it.
I've been in training for 2 days, Jim, so I might have missed it.
Okay. It's a summary. It's in the summary letter.
Okay, got it.
Okay.
Sorry. Okay.
so we can agree on the basic paving and the
Jim,
other little items later.
Jim and board, would it be helpful if Jim put the handicap on this design so you could see what it looked like?
I mean, I know what they look like.
Right.
Some of them have,
I don't know why.
despite what he said, some of them have a space with a little bit on either side of them lined off, and other ones have a space with the passenger side. You know, it must be 9 feet.
The worst case scenario is the van accessible. That the van accessible is the one where you have an equal amount of striped area next to the parking stall.
Okay,
The only problem is how far does it stick out? Is it gonna be parked perpendicular to the fence?
Yes, we're gonna make them, any parking stall that will be painted out there will be perpendicular to the roadway.
Maybe it should be, not parallel, maybe?
You're talking about an angle?
Yeah.
yeah,
The problem with the angled parking works well on a one-way street. Like if you could back out and go forward and go, but when you're backing out to leave, the angle that you're at, when if there's a car next to you on each side, it's going to make it very difficult for you to back up and actually head north again.
No, I don't get that. So what is the decision on the handicap that you need to make?
just
Whether we're painting.
where it is, basically. He knows how
Where we're
many feet of paint it is to make one, so the price can be in there, just if it moves a little bit,
Right.
how much room we have
Right.
between the end of the road before you get to the parking space.
So in recap, we can decide where that painting of the handicap is, whether it's perpendicular at an angle, where the rocks are later, because we're just talking about $1 a foot in
Yep.
paint. So it can be in the estimate now, and if we choose not to have a handicap spot, we just won't use that money, correct?
Correct.
Yeah,
So what we're trying to decide now, I'm trying to just sum it up, so I got it right, is whether we would be doing, the front section in the south toward Gibson Beach with all the things, except we're not specifying where those rocks and the handicap will be, and we'll maybe decide differently later on those 2 items, all the way down to the corner of Gibson and Daniels. Where it.
All the way
can-
to Daniels.
Yeah, well, wherever the connection is, the connection might be slightly past the corner, or.
Does it show? Oh, no.
Yeah.
It's before.
There it is. So.
That's basically,
Okay.
we ended up paving when we did Daniels,
Right.
there was some drainage structure you could see, right, you could barely see it on the west side of the road there. We had to do some work in that structure and pipe it in. It's right near where we ended the road, so that meet that I show here is where the other project left off, paving wise.
I'll make a motion to do the paving and drainage from the beach to the intersection with the prior paving job.
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. I guess we'll be getting back to you, Jim, on those other couple items.
Not an issue. I would just suggest, we could get those POs cut to, Rosemar so he could start setting it up. I know he was asking me about the PO for Seascape because he's got a drainage crew in the area working for the state on Montauk Highway.
Right.
So there was 4 drainage structures that we got to do over on Seascape that he wanted to jump on. I don't know if he'll go in there next week or 2 weeks from now, but he was just asking me about it.
On the list, Jim.
Okay, good. All right, well,
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
have a great day.
And whenever you decide on the benches, whether it's 2 or 1, let me know. Oh,
Potential donors or,
yes, they're
There we go.
donated.
yeah.
From our warehouse, so we'd be happy to do them. Unless you want to build them.
Oh, if you have something, go for it. I'm not doing much at the moment. I've got a fractured leg, so slow down for a minute.
Under new business, Bill.
Presentation of the tentative budget. So we have to set a hearing for April 10th to meet state law. April 10th at 3 p.m. As a public hearing on the budget. I'll make a motion to set that hearing.
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Nikon. State gets aid from the state gives us aid, and our association wants us to weigh in and ask the governor to put that aid in the budget. Is that about right, Rhoda?
That's about
Yeah.
right, and you have a resolution in
Do
there.
we need it?
Do we?
Well,
Well, we get $2,000 right now. And Senator Field has proposed 5,000 for us. Every municipality, it's based on a calculation. And so most of them get more than we do. Some get the same because they're small like we are, but that would be the increase, $3,000.
I would.
It also hasn't been increased in 15 years.
Has not been increased in 15 years, you're correct.
Well, I would.
we pay taxes in some way or other. We might as well get a
Get
few
some-
bucks back.
And
Yeah.
Bill did put his name on the letter from NICOM that they asked the mayors to sign throughout the state. This is just another piece of it.
Okay, I'll make a resolution. I'll deem this read into the record. Resolution 3 of 2024, asking the state to increase the AIM funding. I'll make that resolution, make a motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Oh, boy. Various legislative actions we take. What you explained it, this.
Happy to take it, Mayor. This is, so under the General Municipal Law 239 F, we have to make certain referrals to what's called the Suffolk County Planning Commission for their review and approval. In summary, this is just an IMA proposed by the County Planning Department to exempt certain referrals from us to them. So it really only, it exempts, I would love it if they exempted more, But in this case, they're proposed to exempt 4. So I really think it's, we'll take whatever we can get to avoid having a referrals to the Suffolk County Planning Commission. And these 4 are certain things like area variances with single family residences, which is a good thing for us. Changes of one use permitted to another without any requirement. Changes in parking requirements, minor additions, site plan additions. It's outlined in a resolution, but my recommendation is to accept the IMA because again, if they're willing to not require the referral, that's something that would be in the best interest of the village.
I will make that motion.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Tent permit,
Yes.
Old Stove Pub,
You don't need my tent.
this is recurring.
The old stovepipe every year.
Yeah. Joe actually is on Zoom.
So
Okay.
sorry to see you in bed. I heard you had some repair work done.
Yeah, on myself, my repair work on myself personally.
I hope it's going well for you.
I have a new knee. It's been 1 week. It hurts. So it's inevitable. I have to do both, but I got one down. So one more to go in November. But thank you for having me, seeing me. I hope you all had a good winter. And we're back. Time flies. So I wish I was there in person, but I can't walk. So it is what it is.
You want me to tell you what's going on here? All right, so he's applied for a 30 by 50 foot tent for the summer seating of the 2024 the Old Stove Pub, starting in April 1st. And it is the liquid propane, there is liquid propane gas on site, but no cooking. There are 2 tanks, 100 gallons each. There will be no generators. And there is no stage and there are no platforms to show on. And he's had this there a couple of years now, right? Or-
This would be the 3rd year. It's the same tent, same location, same
Yeah.
parameters. I'm asking only to put it back up as,
Yeah.
and without any changes, I'm not asking for anything more or less. It works well. It provides a really nice outdoor experience. I hope to decorate it and make it even prettier this year with more plants and things like that. But
So it holds 75 people, and are there any other questions? I make a motion, we approve this permit.
I'll second it. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. You got
There
it.
you go.
Hey, Joe, there you go.
Feel
Thank you.
better.
Feel better.
Yeah. hope
can
you-
I wanted to interrupt, but I mean, where's the cell phone tower gonna go? Behind your building there, or
Yes,
how, is it huge? Is it like super tall or?
100 feet.
100 feet.
Oh, that's not so bad. I mean, we all know it's needed for sure.
Yeah.
I kind of like not being reachable at the restaurant, but it's not good for business, so to speak. But that's good. I think it's a good thing to do. So anyway, well,
Good to
thank
see
you.
Get better.
Thanks, Joe.
All
Thank-
right. Enjoy the rest of the day. Come visit soon, I hope.
You too. Okay.
Bye, Rhodey. Thanks.
You're
Bye.
welcome, Joe.
Have a
And the
good one.
next tent permit is for Poxy Bog Golf Center. It's their junior golf camp. It's not a fundraiser. It's 50 people from June 15th to September 15th. They own the tent. It's 30 by 30. No stage, no elevated platform, no propane gas, no generators. And it's been up for the last few years as well.
Yep. Longer than that tent, so
So if
say at least.
there's no questions, I make a motion, we give them the permit.
I'll just second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Great.
And the next permit is for the bike of the Hamptons, see now. Right,
That's the people like.
tour of the Hamptons, Massapequa Park Bike Camp. On September 22nd, Sunday, 6 AM to 6 PM. Their expected number of people, 790 to work the event. Rest stops are distributed here and there, but I don't think not in Sagaponic. And is this the one that runs from the high school to the high school?
Starts in Southampton.
This is a different one.
Oh, okay.
Goes through, it's got several different lengths.
Yeah, it has
25,
4 lengths, 25 miles,
is the
70
shortest.
miles, 104 miles, and was there another one? And basically they go, they come up Bridge Lane, then they go onto Sag Main Street, Cemetery Lane, Daniels Lane, and Town Line. Some of them will be coming down Hedges, Sag Main, and Sagaponic Sag Road, or Sagaponic Road. Which one is that? Sagaponic Road.
That's
Yeah.
the short route, when if they
That's
come
the
in
short
and then
route.
they come back through the village to exit it. And then the other ones go out of the village, and then they come back in through Sag Harbor, I think.
Yeah, the long route, they'll just be going east through Daniels and then over to Waynescott. They have a few donations. Is the BHCCRC the church, the Canton Catholic Church?
No, I think it's the school, isn't it? What does it say, Bridge?
BHCCR.
Oh, Children's. is that the
Children's Center, maybe, because there's
Oh,
two
okay.
Cs in it.
Southampton High School, New York Bike Coalition, Southampton Fresh Air Home, and Maureen's Haven.
The only thing I'm gonna say about them, because I stopped them at one point, they have to be removed. This was several years back. They have come for many years, that they cannot paint the roads.
Right.
Did they paint them last year?
No, but we had an incident several years back, where I tried to stop them from painting the roads and
They
they,
didn't listen to me.
no, they didn't.
I think that was the one that I loved, the park one.
We have had it twice. We've had it with Massapequa and the Heart Association who painted red hearts, which I have to know, my granddaughter thought they were really cute, round Sag, the route, the red hearts all over the road, but initially, just remind them in the form they aren't supposed to do
All
it.
right, that's you, Rhodey.
It's part of the letter. Every special event, if they're on the roads, it's automatic put into the letter that they
The
can.
hearts probably are harmless. It's what else people could paint.
And so how many years have they been doing this, Rhodey? Do you have any idea?
A long time.
Yeah, because they
Ages.
cut off in COVID for 2 years, so they're doing it before that.
Right, exactly.
And the mileages are 25, 53, 70, and 104. Any questions?
Nope.
I make a motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Great. The Schwenk Meadowmere, I think it's called 41 acres, is slowly wending its way through the system. He signed the papers back in March of last year. I think it was August, they said they sent out for the first appraisal because it was a big potential purchase. In December, they sent out for another appraisal.
Well, it was before December, but they did do two.
Oh, yeah, okay. And I've been talking to Mr. Schwenk almost monthly, assuring him that things are progressing to try to keep him on board. I've gone to the Agricultural Advisory Board meetings to be prepared when it shows up there that they know that we're very interested in this happening. I spoke personally with the new supervisor, and she said that she would look favorably on our request for community preservation funds expenditure in the village. And then I followed up with a letter detailing the Schwenk property, and she said she would look into it with the community preservation fund. I've spoken with John B.K. Halsey of the Peconic Land Trust, letting him know that this is something that we would like to see happen. Also with the representative from the Farm Bureau who sits in on a lot of these meetings, Rob Carpenter, let him know that we wanted any support we could get from them. The Community Preservation Board meets 8 a.m. at the Hampton Bays Senior Center, third Wednesday of each month, so that's the same day as this meeting. But if I'm alive and well, I expect to go to that. I don't know if it'll be in front of them yet, but by showing up, I think you show them that we're really interested in this thing being closed. Hopefully the offer they make eventually will be enough to satisfy however members of the Schrank family are involved in this. Anyway, I like this board. I personally sent a letter asking for them to support this, and I think it's important, as the board has done in the past, the board itself to send a letter, which Rhodey will compose. So I'd like to make a resolution that you authorize her sending a letter to the Community Preservation Fund, asking them to look favorably on this purchase.
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Having waited 4 years with the Topping Horse Farm, we know how tedious this can be. The waiting part, takes a while to get there, but when it gets there, it's worth a great smile, excitement.
At the education meeting I went to, one of the other speakers, these are topics that come up all the time. The hot topics, the beach-sleep disease is very important, so they always have presenters on that. And also the other one is ticks. This time they had a researcher from the Suffolk County Vector Control Department. He did a great presentation. He covered ticks from one end to the other. And I'm sure everyone will be happy to know that there are now 5 different types of ticks on Suffolk County. And they all present one type of problem or another. I with managed, he didn't have a handout, but I managed to make some shots, photos of his presentation. It's more of a matter of interest. They don't mean a lot. He has life cycles of ticks and how many ticks there are at certain times of year and what type of ticks they are on all 5 of them. There's larval stages, nymph stages, and then there's the adult ticks. And depending on which tick it is, they present some type of health hazard. One of the most interesting things was he said that the main driver of the tick population, the most important one, is the deer population. And he said that there was a correlation between the number of deer you had in an area and the number of ticks. He said that every animal has ticks on it, whether it's mice, birds, groundhogs, rabbits. But the deer, if you track their population, they had the most effect on tick populations. And he said that in areas like ours, where we have the deer program, reduction management, they found that there were less ticks. And so for me, it really drove home the fact that us paying what we do to have this deer management program does have an effect on the tick population, a real positive. He also ran through prevention, about spraying of properties. They did studies about different chemicals used.
Who was he again? I missed that part.
He was, I have his name.
But what group?
He's from Suffolk County Vector Control.
Oh.
Yeah, and Rhodey was searching. I don't know if you ever found anything or had time to find if they had some kind of pamphlet on this, or if
It
we.
might
I
be
did
good to
not.
have
I
it
did not.
here,
Yeah,
so it'd be
okay,
kind of cool
we'll
to have
follow
it,
up on
yeah.
it.
All I have are your pictures.
Yeah,
of that.
right, okay. We'll see. I mean, I would think they would have something, but you don't know really. It would be helpful. He did get into different chemicals, but I saw his study and I'm not sure. He did some organics, he did some pure, straight chemical stuff. And the straight chemicals worked the best, but I didn't like his study really. I don't think it was definitive compared to some other stuff I've seen. He did get into repellents, things like repellents that you put on your skin and also repellents that you put on your clothing, and things like DEET, Pickardin, and there was a numbered one, which I have used, worked well. He said there was, they tried some organics. I think it was eucalyptus oil. He said the main problem was it worked, but it stained clothing and it deteriorated. If you've got it on plastic, like in your car, it would stain your car or deface the plastic.
It melts the plastic.
Yeah, right. So,
The essential oils do.
okay. And the clothing treatment, the permethrin, which seems to be what all the researchers use, worked very well, and they felt that it was safe. And then he got into testing, looking for tick sampling, and it was basically what I had showed before. I mean, you can do it yourself instead of just spraying your property. It's possible to take a white towel, drag it around part of your property, see if you have any ticks, and maybe you don't need to spray. And if you're not out there laying in the grass, you probably don't have to spray anyway. But if you have children who are going to play in the grass, you can consider it if you have ticks. Anyway, I figured I'd pass that along since it tends to be a hot topic.
The cleanup.
Yep, Great East End cleanup is April 27th. I don't think I'll be here, but
What's that? Oh, Saturday it is?
Yeah.
Saturday.
the
Usually we
Saturday
do it-
beach, what, 9 in the morning usually is the meet time,
8
8,
8 8:30.
8:30.
Pass this on to Sag School too.
What I do is I send a.
Oh, when are you
blast
mass
out,
email?
but, yeah, I'll definitely send it. out.
While we're on Saguenay Beach, can I bring something up?
Sure.
The parking lines need to be
Yeah.
revamped and repainted. And there's 2 spots in the parking lot that are ready to go down into the pond that need to be fixed. Maybe Peterman.
Rhoda's been in touch with them.
That's not our area, that is.
It's not our lot, but we've
Yeah.
been agitating
That's
for it.
Yeah,
Yeah, and I did talk to him about that area, it's right as you first come in.
Yeah.
And you turn to the right and it's right there by the pond and it's a.
well, it's further up.
Well, there's 2 of them.
Well,
Okay.
that's
One
true.
holds water, the other one I
Yeah.
think goes into something. So,
Yeah,
yeah.
And they're supposed to be looking into some sort of drainage system to capture that water before it goes into the pond.
would they say anything about painting or you didn't talk about that?
They usually do it. in
Yeah,
the
they didn't do
beginning
it
of
last
the-
year.
The summer.
Every year they used to?
Well,
They didn't do it last year. It's
No,
really bad.
agitate. I mean, I know people who agitate and Rhodey gets in touch with them and tells them, but pull up on your own and tell them you have a problem parking there because they don't paint the lines. They
Okay.
get enough grief, maybe they'll
you
do
know, I'll
something.
definitely send.
Well, there is an issue
Ask her.
where the little building is, you're not supposed to park to the west of it.
Right.
And then they start the cars. But the lines are gone to the point where you don't know that and people end up parking. It's like a turnaround
Yeah.
spot. And
Yeah.
now you're not able to because the car's parked
Yeah,
there. So,
And since it's
And
such
ask
a
her
warm
when
spring,
they
we
are
could
going
encourage
to-
them to open their bathrooms sooner.
Ask them to do that
yeah,
as
can
well.
you do
No,
that again?
seriously.
Well, I can ask them, I mean. it's
We've
all
been
about
down
first
there at the
smell,
beach
so.
and it's been
I've
45, 50
I've got
degrees.
friends who are agitated for 20 years.
Why can't
They
we
do not
bathrooms
listen.
once the frost is over? No, seriously.
Anyway,
It's a little
thing. She's the head of the
Clark?
department. No.
Oh, the bills, the
Parks and Recreation.
Parks and Rec,
So the sign is fixed.
Parks and Rec.
They are the ones that maintain.
Okay.
Carrie, you're
So,
up
yeah,
again with
the
the sign.
sign, we're in discussion. I think less is more.
I drew pictures.
And we sent
And
you
printed 'em.
pictures. Did you see this?
I saw
Yep.
it.
Did you see it? Didn't see it? No.
You could make the word slowly in capitals in a
Right.
very nice color if you really wanted people to slow down.
Flashing neon.
Um, What was my suggestion? Do you remember, Lisa? Here we go. I said, I thought that, well, you suggested, quite a long thing, which
And then we-
was nice, but it was too long.
Yeah, and then it got shorter. We had to talk it
Um,
out.
Yeah, Lisa, how about welcome to historic Sagaponic, established 1656, incorporated 2005. Enjoy the agriculturally preserved vistas and please slow down. That's too long. And what was my thought? Otherwise, okay, so, welcome to historic Sagaponic, established 1656. And leave it at that. Or we could have, I feel like the historic leads to, oldness, and because it's old, people will maybe slow down, So you don't have to say it.
I agree.
But, or please, you said add the historic, add the agricultural.
I said the historic and the agricultural were equally important, I guess, because we've always been proud that we were preserving agricultural history and land. But I took out the words that are connectors.
Yeah, I don't think I would not like to see the word slowly on our Sagaponic sign.
Well, it can.
And I'm not
doesn't
even
have to say.
sure we should write village. We can really tiny write Sagaponic Village established in whatever, 2005, was it? But just
It's in
welcome.
the symbol though, if
Right.
you use the symbol at the top of the sign, you've covered that problem.
Do you like the symbol used in it?
Well, I like the agricultural look with the ocean. And it also, every village or town has a symbol. I also like the idea, this is the art part of Lisa, that I don't want a square sign. I like that we had maybe a curved section where the symbol was up and then the info was below.
I like the square, but that's okay. That's semantics. Welcome, Sagaponic Village established 1656. Enjoy the agricultural history.
Get rid of the word slowly.
Yeah. Or something like
Everyone-
that. So anyway, it's a work in progress, and
Yeah.
we'll put 3 up somewhere, like just over the bridge, and maybe on Sag Main Street, and maybe in Waynscott.
Yeah.
Maybe,
Sounds
or
good.
maybe 2 is, how many do you think we should have?
No,
Budgetarily.
three is enough.
I mean-
think. We don't have to put them right now.
No,
We can go to the next budget too.
Yeah.
We'll see what money we've
Easily.
got. Yeah,
so, yeah, we got plenty of time.
yeah, I like
To still discuss.
the thing on the top, you put the seal in it.
Or we could
Is
just make it round, well, yeah.
Well, it makes, everybody,
It's a symbol,
it's a symbol that says we're real,
yeah.
so to
Right.
speak. Whether the person reads it, what they're really gonna see is the picture, which is what you're referring to in your text.
Mhm.
Good. And you have a teenager who can do
Yeah,
Photoshop?
yeah, he said that, they could, I'll bring him in to photograph
Yeah.
this, and, we'll try to, for the next meeting, I'll try to make, or do you have something you can send me?
Yeah. And, JPEG and, some under the other format, but I can send it.
So, I could do a mock-up, not Lisa quickly using a pencil in the kitchen, and, get rid of the word slowly, and then show it to everyone. Do you want it in
Yes.
color? I mean,
Absolutely.
okay. Or does someone else want to do it?
Lee said we should put land where the groundnuts grow.
Yes, she did.
Because that's what, we could write that really little on it. That's
Do
what
a good job
Sagaponic
with it.
means, right?
go really slowly and read.
Right. Yeah.
For those of us that need readers or regular glasses, both issues, It's really hard to read those tiny things.
Let's pay some bills.
Yeah.
Make a motion to expend $69,391.71 from the general fund.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Make a motion to expend $1,695 from the Trust and Regency planning account.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Make a motion to expend $4,516.88 from the Capital Highway Fund. All in favor?
Aye.
And expend Village Hall project money in the amount of $3,810.
Second, sorry.
All in favor?
Aye. What is that?
That's the money that we used from the bond to put this extension on. We have
Oh.
a shekels left in it, so.
Okay.
Spend it. Well, we did need a new.
And you just need to make a motion for the next meeting or?
I'll make a motion to, the next meeting is actually April 10th.
We don't need a motion.
Yeah.
Oh, you don't need a, oh, but it's not the 17th.
Oh, it says the 17th.
Well, the 17th is your next regular monthly meeting, but you have a special meeting on April
Oh.
10th. For that budget hearing that. you need a
Oh,
motion
you're
to
right.
Set that hearing earlier in the meeting. So.
Why didn't we make it the 17th?
Because it's April the 15th. We have to.
Oh.
Full.
Gotcha.
Is there anyone from the floor who'd like to make a speech? Complaints? No.
Close it quick.
Bill, you always used to stand up and thank the board, so I can at least do that, then I'm sparing my appreciation going, report part.
Okay.
Thank you, member
Thank
Very
you.
grateful.
Rhodey, for all the work
Oh, God.
to get the paper of that whole budget thing together.
Any
Good
other
job.
business?
Robin.
Anything else to be brought up? I'll make a motion to close the meeting.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.